We get going? Perfect. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Davos Lodge. I'm Katherine Docampo. I'm a Senior Vice President at a global communications agency, Weber Shandwick. I previously spent over 11 years working at the World Economic Forum and was most recently head of impact communications. So I'm a Davos, let's see, this is my 12th Davos, and I love to obviously, the opportunities that Davos offers to dive deep into issues, but also to have regional conversations with the wide variety of regions that are here. And so today we're here to talk about the Eastern Mediterranean. I actually, in our briefings yesterday, I suggested that we put up a map of what we mean by the Eastern Mediterranean. Because if you're like me, having grown up, despite being of Greek heritage, if you grew up in the US, for example, you wouldn't really know much about geography or what we're talking about. So when we are talking about the Eastern Mediterranean, we're discussing the region that starts, with Greece over to Turkey, but heads down into other critical nations like Israel, Lebanon, and of course Cyprus that we'll get to. So it is a region that has obviously a long and complicated history. There is a lot of geopolitical tensions we'll get to today, and so it is a region, I would say, more known for strife and tension and war than it is for economic cooperation and growth, but that is what we want to discuss today. And that is also the point of Davos, essentially, which is how to come together to create sustainable shared value and economic growth, whether it be an industry-focused conversation or in a region. So I'm very pleased today to have an esteemed panel of people who can bring, I think, real lived experiences as ministers, as change makers within the region. And so I'll let everybody introduce themselves and speak a bit in your introduction. I want to also ask you to frame what you want to bring to the table today, because it's obviously a big discussion, right? We can go in different dimensions: energy, geopolitics, investment flows, trade flows, war, conflict, and also not to mention everything. The game is changing with the new president in a way for the U.S. From yesterday. So I'd love you to also introduce yourself and also frame what is the conversation that you think we need to be having when we discuss cooperation and sustainable economic growth in the Eastern Mediterranean. So first I invite Mr. Kyriakidis.
Thank you, Katherine, and glad to be here. I'm Nicholas Kyriakidis. I am the founder of the Cyprus Forum. So the Cyprus Forum is a very small Davos in Cyprus, very small. But this is what we're trying to do, to bring closer policymakers with entrepreneurs and academics and other leaders to discuss about policies, both from Cyprus internationally, especially the EU and the Middle East. And what I want to bring to the table today is, the vision that the Middle East is now a mess. So there are conflicts in Gaza, until recently in Lebanon, in Syria. Also, there is the Cyprus issue, which is still open. And the area is the potential of the region is immense, and if the people of the region decide to work together, then they will be far, far, far better off than now. So yeah, that's it from me.
Perfect. Next, I introduce Mr. Pastalaikis, Evangelos Pastalaikis.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, all of you who are here. I'm Evangelos Apostolakis. I am a member of the Greek Parliament. I used to be Minister of Defense, and before Chief of the Armed Forces, and before Chief of the Navy. So my background is mostly military, but anyway, I'm living in an area like my friend from here, where we feel almost everything we say. It is not only theoretical, the vision we have there. So we are, at the moment, thinking and try to find what is the future of this area, especially in the East Mediterranean, where a lot of changes are happening at the moment. We have one war who seems that it start stopping slowly, but we don't know the future. We also know that there is a war in Ukraine, where with the new administration of the United States, don't know where and how they will manage the situation. So one thing that is important is that the Trump administration, she's not thinking and he's not considering about the situation in the area, how the laws are, and how the balance between the nations is there. But he wants to have the less problems on investing in the energy and transferring the energy and the security of the area. But I don't like to hold all the time, so.
So I'm pleased now to present Mr. Dorian Duchka. Please introduce yourself and say what you'd like to cover today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I'm Dorian Duchka, founder of Alpha Strategi Consulting, a boutique firm which advises governments and businesses from Middle East to Europe to Germany. And I used to be a former deputy minister of energy and industry in Albania, and also was a pro bono advisor to the Albanian prime minister. Basically, I would like to mention today how we could, it's all about economic opportunities, where people pick up their Kalashnikovs and fight rather than just create startups, or where they pick up their clothes and run away and look for a better life. It's all about economic opportunities. I believe that the geographical position of EastMed and also of the others, it has been looked like it has been a curse, but we need to turn this curse from the resources point of view and from the geographical point of view, like we need to turn it into a blessing. So I need to discuss how we could bring back economic opportunities for the people, and that these people can turn these ideas into action, and then they could be evolved in the future in infrastructure.
So I'd like to first talk about how do we bring the different stakeholder interests to the table in the Eastern Mediterranean, right? So Nicholas, you run the Cyprus Forum that looks to bring different stakeholder groups to the conversation as to what this looks like. And you as the former ministers, both of you as politicians, would have to have navigated negotiations and finding shared interest and win-win situations across different country borders, but of course also language borders, religion, political systems, etc. So I'd like everyone in their experience, because in a way you're all have diplomatic experience, Nicholas, more in the soft diplomacy and in the hard diplomacy. When approaching that and trying to find the common thread and create common interest, what have you seen working, right? Or what do you think has not been working and you need more of?
Well, first of all, I can give insights from Cyprus, because Cyprus is maybe a case study, because first of all, I should say a few things about the Cyprus issue.
Yes, pretend people don't know what is the Cyprus issue for a minute.
Yeah. So until 1960, that Cyprus gained its independence from the British. Both Greeks and Turks were living on the island. Cyprus became an independent state in 1960, and then conflict erupted between Greeks and Turks. And then 1974, there was a coup d'etat by the Greek junta, and then the invasion by Turkey. Turkey calls it intervention, because claiming that it was a guarantor power. And the result of the war was that the island is now split into two. Turkey, there are around 40,000 Turkish troops, many refugees from both sides, and so on. So from 1974 to 2003, the border dividing the island was completely closed. So the two sides were living as if there was a wall, and we didn't know what the other side was doing. Then 2003, in light of the accession of Cyprus to the EU, which happened in 2004, the borders opened and people from both sides can cross. So it's been around 22 years after the borders opened. The effort was for Cyprus to enter the EU after a solution was found. There was no solution. And then since then, I should say that on a civic society level, there has been a lot of collaboration and interaction. While on a political level, there has been some progress culminating into 2004, the Annan Plan, which was rejected by the Greek Cypriots, and then 2017 at Crans-Montana in Switzerland, where the negotiations failed. But as I was saying, and because we're looking for positive examples and how,
What was working to drive those, the collaboration that you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, the EU, using its influence is quite, pivotal in its role to bring the two peoples closer. So there is a directorate of the EU working on the Turkish Cypriots together with the World Bank, and at the same time enhance the business cooperation between the two sides. There have been interesting projects between Greek Cypriots, Turkish Cypriots working together, and when there is, as Dorian said, economic value, then people can work together and they forget about their ethnicity and their religion and their conflict and everything. So, the effort is to magnify this effect. Also, there is another. In the area of research.
Wait, I just might pause you because I think you've said a good point, which is people can figure it out. Sometimes governments and institutions are what fails. And so maybe if I go to Mr. Pastolakis, can you tell us from your experience as a minister and obviously now as a current member of parliament in this region, what has been your approach to kind of building the bridges? How have you, what do you see in terms of diplomacy? What has worked?
You know that the situation in the area is always difficult. Sometimes we have more difficulties, and the main problem is that the relationship between the nations in the area is not probably the best. You know that the Turkish, as are always, would like to push mostly on the area where they would like to have everything under control. So, as I told you, I don't know if I told you yesterday, that many times, and especially after the war in Ukraine, when the energy supply of Europe was a big problem, because as you remember, all the energy, the huge percentage became from Russia. It was a very good opportunity to have this energy from Eastern Mediterranean. So the question was how the Europe and the United States should help the areas, so the relationship between the nations to be better and start exploiting all the energy resources that there are in the area. So, but the conflict in the area is also making the situation more complicated. You saw now that with the war in Israel, the Houthis start the problems bothering all the transferring of energy, mainly from the area, and the energy security was on a very low level. So what we recommend and we try to succeed is to create a good relationship with all the nations there on purpose to stabilize the situation and start having more security on energy and on transferring the energy in the area. So plus the problems that we can discuss one by one, but generally we hope that the situation is getting better when the war will stop. But also, as I said before, we like to see what the United States is going to do.
So quickly, we've come to the topic of energy security as a force of stabilizing the region or destabilizing the region, and that's a question for you, Mr. Duchka. Is as a former energy minister, deputy minister, what is your view on the opportunity for energy security to act as a forcing mechanism for greater cooperation and economic growth for the region?
Unfortunately, Europe, West Europe and Europe in general and other learned it the hard way. Since the early 2014 and in the early 2000s, we were ringing the alarm bell that the Russians are weaponizing their energy resources, their energy trading. So that we should not rely only on Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2, and there was a warning about it. So luckily, I mean, of course, we didn't solve all the problems at the time. We started to think independently in order to build the Southern Gas Corridor, to bring the Azeri gas from the Caspian toward Italy. And there was a competition there via Nabucco, the Poseidon line, and then at the end of the day, it was Trans-Adriatic Pipeline that won, because it was able to get more support. And through that, we learned that Albania and Greece didn't have that kind of energy diplomacy. We were able together, through signing intergovernmental agreement, into entering into negotiation and talks, that by jointly joining forces, Albania, Greece, and Italy, we could achieve to pass this Southern Gas Corridor, Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, from our land and not from Romania and Bulgaria, which at the end of the day, we won, and this dialogue won, and we increased our interdependence into one another, and each one of our countries benefited billions of foreign direct investment, like Albania, 1 billion euro, Greece, 2 billion euro. So before, there was nothing existent, but just because we started, we had the vision to talk, and we had the vision to diversify the routes and the resources of this energy, and not to rely on only one actor or regime, we turned it into a good success story. I believe that the same story could be repeated for the Eastern Med, with the shared resources that they are on the Levant field. I believe that the resources, the gas field resources there, should not be used as a way to jeopardize more the relations between the Turks and the Greeks, between Cyprus and Turkey, but rather it could be as an incentive, as a carrot. We just need to turn these shared resources into great opportunities of collaboration and even closing old wounds and looking forward, because the shared future will bring us more benefits than the past. Nobody is so rich to buy the past, as Oscar Wilde said, but we can all invest into the future. And at the same time, look at geographical position of East Med. It can be a great alternative to the Silk and Belt Road. China is trying to find a way into increasing its soft power and infrastructure from China toward the rest of the Europe. Because, I mean, under the Biden administration, which I think the Trump administration need to even support it more, was created the Indian Middle Eastern Economic Corridor, which has to pass through East Med. And it was delayed because of the Hamas-Israeli war, but now with a ceasefire, with Syrian regime of Assad falling, and with Hezbollah diminished in Lebanon, I think this corridor could be also a great gateway for a huge economic trade and opportunities for the whole region, for India, for Middle East. So it can become a catalyst of economic growth, and through economic diplomacy and energy diplomacy.
So you mentioned the Belt Road Initiative. That is, of course, a resource-driven. On one hand, there's a resource-driven initiative. On the other hand, it is also about digital infrastructure and technology and sharing of, obviously we're discussing all this during the AI revolution, right? So that we're surrounded by discussions on AI and future technologies. So I'm also just wondering, as perhaps the youngest member of the panel, who is closest to the technology next gen and the digital native generation, that how are we looking at economic opportunity beyond? Obviously you need the energy security there to power jobs, to power industry. But then what are the opportunities for integration beyond that as we look to the future of jobs in a more digitalized environment? What are you seeing from your experiences?
Yeah, again, I'm going to refer to two examples of bright spots, as I would like to call them, of where collaboration brought people together. One example is a center of excellence in Nicosia, the capital of Cyprus. It's called Science. It was collaboration between the municipality of Nicosia and UCL in London. And the condition for this huge grant to be given to the municipality of Nicosia was that that would be a bi-communal project. So Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots work together. And I think otherwise this condition wouldn't have been accepted, but because of the huge amount of money, it was accepted. Anyway, and now 5-6 years after this center was established, we see people from both sides working together, jobs were created, even a checkpoint is going to open right next to the building of the Center of Excellence. Another example is in London. So there are many Cypriots working in London, and there is this association called Cypriots in the City. And while the older generation, which are, I'm not criticizing the older generation who have lived, experienced war and everything, but just to give you an idea, the Federation of Cypriots are, more into, talking about the Turkish invasion and the refugees, which, of course, for us, it's, a fact, and it's a very, an open wound. And until, the problem is solved, we will never forget about it. But, instead of the younger generation, instead of focusing on this, they're focusing on, business, collaboration. And again, you see people from the two sides to be friends, work together, discuss together. And it's all a matter of perspective, and it can be done.
Mr. Apostolakis, I wanted to ask you, so heading into Davos this week, there was a couple major news trending and dominating the global media cycle. One was the U.S. ban on TikTok. Another was obviously the ceasefire in Gaza. And another was the Trump administration. I'm not sure how much the ban on TikTok has implications for the region, but certainly the other two do. So just wondering, as we look to a Trump 2.0 presidency and changes to the region, Mr. Duchka already mentioned, for example, the change in regime in Syria, increased power, therefore, of Istanbul and Damascus, perhaps ceasefire that hopefully sticks in Gaza. How do you see these changes that we're experiencing this week playing out in these conversations for the Eastern Mediterranean security cooperation?
We can assume only, because we don't know what the administration Trump is going to do on that. That the policy towards Greece and Turkey relations and the NATO in the area is something very, very important, because I said before that the Trump administration and the U.S. policy makers must recognize the critical importance of reducing tensions between Greece and Turkey in the Eastern Mediterranean. And we saw that Turkey at the moment is trying to be very, very participate and play a very, very significant role on the Syria stabilizing. So we hope that the war there is going to stop and not start again because of Turkey is not succeeding on what he wants. Plus, if the Israel and Gaza war stops also and start the establishing again the area, starting the production and doing the security again on the area, then we hope that you know that there are a lot of plans in the area for transferring energy. There is the EastMed program who still stays alive. Plus, there is one program with energy transferring from which is now on the way between Israel, Cyprus, Greece, transferring energy to the Europe, and we see that the major role in the area is playing by the United States at the moment. We believe and we try to convince the EU that they have to play more significant role in that. And also Europe has started to create his own capabilities on security and defense area mostly.
So before we open up to questions, I have one last question for you, Mr. Duchka. So we heard two different perspectives in a way. One is about the role of people building ties, coming together, that you see that obviously playing out in Cyprus personally, about the people finding the way, people building the connection, next generations wanting to work together. But then we also hear about the role of institutions like NATO, like the EU and other initiatives at an institutional level. So what is it? Is this panel's meant to look at the pathway forward for regional integration? Is it about the people or is it about the institutions? What do you see really needing to be the engine of change?
I mean, don't forget we don't live in East Med and in Balkans and in Eastern Europe. Often, sometimes personalities might be stronger than institutions that do certain policies. And I think, unfortunately or fortunately, we are seeing it also in the United States and in Europe these days, where a lot of personalities will shape policy. I think we need, but at the end of the day, like institutions are run from people, and at the end of the day, also these personalities are elected based from the people, and also they reflect a certain part of the culture and the needs that these people represent. So I think it needs to be a combination of both, because sometimes when it comes to institutions and policies, a solution of a policy that can be a solution right now, it can become an issue in 10 years' time or in 5 years' times. So we always need, somebody like that could look like an innovative leader nowadays, or like a liberator for a country. He could become the next dictator, or he could become the next autocrat. So we need to draw the fine balance. I believe in leadership. I believe in people, but at the same time, we need also the guarantees of institutions, which should be domestic, national, but at the same time, like. In Europe, we have the blessing that we are part of also NATO and EU, which the institutions are a little bit larger, where it holds accountable these people. But I believe that people needs to be the driving force that the institutions could follow, or could be putting them into more institutionalized frameworks.
Do you want to come in on that, or?
I mean, it's a $1 million question. It's
Davos, it should be at least $100 million
yeah,
question.
yeah. And I mean, the question becomes even more complicated. I think.
So, we're in an intimate setting tonight. Would love to hear anybody from the audience have any questions or experiences also from the region. Yeah.
I think with the new administration coming into power, or the new administration that we have, the new policy towards energy with U.S. drilling more, how do you, what's your view on how that will impact Europe, the energy security in the region? Is it, I assume, I mean, the U.S. is already energy secure, but do you think that will hurt our allies, help, or hurt?
Are you referring to the Trump administration?
Yes.
Okay. And are you referring to the region or Cyprus or
Europe as a region, of how that will
Europe? As
Yeah.
I mean, I think nobody knows. Even Trump might not even know. I think everyone is waiting for to see how things will happen, and hopefully we won't have any negative surprises. That's all I can say.
We have a friend from Texas, and they're looking forward to exporting their shale gas LNG to Europe. So we have to compete with East Med, and has to compete a little bit with Texans when it comes to supplying the energy resources to Europe. But as long as Europe gets competitive, good LNG prices, important is that all things go into the win-win situation. Let's call it like that.
I think, and all of us knows that the energy coming from United States is very expensive for Europe. So the alternate solutions, plus the way that President Trump is responding to the Europe at the moment with these difficulties economical, Europe has to start looking on his area and where he can influence mostly to find alternate solutions, because the energy is existing. The problem is how to manipulate the situation and how to be effective all these resources that are existing in the area. Plus, Trump shows and declared from the beginning that he's going to stop the wars in the area. This is very, very important. If he succeeds on that, then the things are changing. We can be optimists because nobody could say anything about how they can respond. But we are now on a situation where everything is on the way. So let's be a little bit patient on that.
Dorian, can you also speak? I think we've focused a lot on oil and gas questions or natural gas exploitation. What about renewable energy, right, in the region? There is a story there also about cooperation around renewable energy, and I believe in the headlines even last week. Could you speak a bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, we are lucky to live in a region where, like, minimum, Albania is a little bit north than Greece, but I mean, also in Albania, like, we have 310 days out of 365 days with sun. So imagine what's in Cyprus and what's in Greece and in the other part. So basically, we should also rely on this sun resource that God has given us, and now the technology has advanced. But what we will just need to do is that how we could build on the grid to accumulate all this, because now with the solar energy becoming much cheaper to produce, we just need a little bit more upgrade in the infrastructure. And one of the strategic moves that the Albanian government would like to become like a small hub in this renewable production, which of course it could be also Greece, it could be also Cyprus. It's the joint investment or MOU that we are thinking like to build with financing of UAE, Albania, and Italy to put the undersea cable from Albania to Italy, where it will export all the solar and renewable energy production that will be produced in Albania, and Albania and the region will become from a net importer will become to a net producer of electricity. So which is a very good thing, but this thing would have been much more expensive if we didn't have the success story of Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, because with the bedding of the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline underground, the Adriatic Sea, it makes it much cheaper for these other lines to be built under the same seabed. So in a way, like all these evolutions are like interlinked, and I think we just need to use one success story to the other and to upgrade it to the new levels of energy.
We'll go from cable diplomacy or pipeline diplomacy to cable diplomacy. Any other? Yes.
You mentioned several times about Turkey and about the intricate relationship, mentioning also that collaboration with Turkey is important. I would like to know your views on what are the risks of greater involvement with Turkey, whether it's economic collaboration or other types of collaboration, given that the conflicts and the disputes are unresolved as of now, and also given Turkish more aggressive policies in the region. So I would like to know how you tackle it. I'm from Armenia myself, and it's an interesting question for me to understand how you deal with it.
May I?
It's not an easy one.
Yes. Except the problem we have with Cyprus that my friend, yes, Nicolas said before. We have problems with the Turkey that are increasing by the years. And the problem is that we say that they don't respect the conventions and the international law. So we have difference, and there are statements from the side of the Turkish about the the way we would like to establish the exclusive economic zones, plus the sea zones generally. And this is a problem because Turkey is trying to do that by the force. Sometimes it's threatening Greece by using the military energies. So we both belong in NATO, as you know, and this is something very, very important because the northeast wing of NATO is very, very important, especially now where there are the problems with Russia, plus for the energy security in the area. And the last 1.5 years, we try hardly to hold a very good relationship and try to solve the problems by talks. But the final results are not the best because it seems that everything we are doing, we're starting from the beginning because they still have the same things in their mind. So we are not very optimistic on that. We just hold and manage the situation in case of having less tension in the area, hoping that we will find a solution in the future. That's it.
I agree with these points. I would only like to add that, first of all, Turkey, I think, is not, there are different opinions, different powers inside Turkey. Also, before the earthquakes in 2021, I think, or 22, things were really bad between Greece and Turkey. But then Greece offered help to Turkey, and there was a rapprochement, and relations started to improving. Well, whether I believe that Turkey can become a trustworthy partner in the long run and that relations can be restored forever, I don't know. A friend of mine said that Turkey is like a fire. If you get too close, you will burn. If you go too far, you will be cold. So I don't know. It's not. And also trying to understand the Turkish mentality all these years. If you say to the Turks that I'm not friends with you, they will want to kill you and destroy you. And even, they don't care about violating human rights and everything. If you show to them that, you want to work with them, then it becomes different. There are many examples of countries that are working with Turkey. Complicated question, especially for a Cypriot.
So I think we have to have a challenge to the Davos Lodge organizers next year to make sure this panel has a Turkish voice on it as well. Have the conversation, more two-sided from that regard. So I know we're almost at time, so I just wanted to invite you, Mr. Duška, to come in with any final thoughts as well.
Well, I mean, I think that EastMed and full media and EastMed has gone also through a lot of trouble, but also a little bit created from Middle Eastern tensions at the same time and other deeper. I think that now I might see good opportunities for the region to stabilize politically, for the conflicts hopefully to lower down, and that this opportunity could be used to create economic opportunities and really bring up the region to become a better place, and rather than to have a brain drain, to start creating a brain gain, and to become a place where people would come and invest and live, rather than a place where would come where they would just abandon it. But at the same time, that the EastMed should become an exporter of security, of energy, of economic resources, and not just of conflicts and like illegal migration from the region inside. So I think it's the time that the region takes back its fate and looks toward a brighter future.
And just one last thought is also we didn't cover is tourism. So I mean, we talked about the sun and the sea, and so obviously the East Mediterranean also has a wonderful cultural landscape and opportunities for people to also, as we've seen huge boosts in tourism in Greece lately, and I think that's also an important kind of part of the economic consideration for a more stable region. But that's also just me thinking about my vacation in Greece this summer. So thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists, and I think we'll be able to chat more over hopefully a glass of wine if it's waiting for us outside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katherine. Thank you.